Most people think they know what Canada looks like: mountains, moose, maple syrup. But beyond the stereotypes are places you've probably never seen and maybe never even heard of. Glaciers that glow turquoise in the mountain light, waterfalls that thunder with the force of entire oceans, and wilderness so vast it makes you feel like the first person to ever stand there. This is the other Canada. The one that exists beyond the cities, where grizzly bears still outnumber humans, where indigenous stories are carved into ancient stone, and where nature operates on a scale that dwarfs everything you thought you knew about big. From the Rocky Mountains to the Atlantic coast, from frozen tundra to wine country valleys, we're about to explore 15 of Canada's most extraordinary places. If you're ready to discover the Canada most travelers never find, hit that subscribe button and join Life in Geo as we journey through the world's second largest country, where wilderness isn't just protected, it's the main attraction. Before we begin, here are some facts that might surprise you. Canada has more lakes than all other countries combined, over 2 million of them. It has the longest coastline in the world, stretching 243,000 kilometers. Canada is home to 20% of the world's fresh water. The country spans 6 time zones and shares the world's longest international border with the United States. Canada's national parks are larger than many countries. Wood Buffalo National Park alone is bigger than Switzerland. The country has 2 official languages, English and French, reflecting its colonial history. And despite its massive size, over 90% of Canadians live within 160 kilometers of the US border. The rest is pure wilderness. This is a country defined by space. Where nature isn't contained in parks, it is the landscape. Where winter isn't just a season, it's a way of life. And where the wild remains truly wild. It's Canada's first national park, and standing in it, you understand why it needed protection. This is Banff, where the Rocky Mountains rise in jagged peaks that pierce the sky. Established in 1885, it's one of the world's most iconic mountain parks. Moraine Lake sits in the Valley of the 10 Peaks. Its water an impossible shade of turquoise fed by glacial melt. The color comes from rock flour, fine particles of sediment that reflect light in an almost unnatural way. The lake is so photogenic it once appeared on Canadian $20 bills. Peyto Lake glows the same electric blue. The Icefields Parkway connects Banff to Jasper, a 232-kilometer highway considered one of the most scenic drives on Earth. Glaciers cling to mountain peaks. Waterfalls cascade into valleys. Elk graze beside the road, indifferent to passing cars. Banff town sits in the valley, surrounded by mountains on all sides. Step beyond the main street and wilderness begins immediately. Trails lead into bare country, and everywhere, the sense that nature here operates on its own terms, untamed and magnificent. It's one of the world's most famous waterfalls, yet standing before it, you realize it's not the height that impresses. It's the volume. This is Niagara Falls, where 3 waterfalls combine to create the highest flow rate of any waterfall in North America. 6 million cubic feet of water crash over the edge every minute. The sound is deafening. The mist rises so high it creates its own weather system, with rainbows forming and reforming in the spray. The Canadian side offers the best views. Horseshoe Falls curves in a perfect arc, 53 meters high and 790 meters wide. you can walk behind the falls through tunnels carved into the rock, feeling the thunder vibrate through your body. The Maid of the Mist boat takes you to the base, where the falls surround you in white chaos. Niagara has been a tourist attraction for over 200 years. Daredevils have gone over in barrels. Tightrope walkers have crossed above, but the falls remain indifferent, powerful, eternal. At night, colored lights illuminate them, turning water into liquid rainbow. And in winter, parts freeze, creating ice formations like crystallized time. It's a city sandwiched between ocean and mountains, and that geography defines everything. This is Vancouver, where you can ski in the morning and sail in the afternoon without driving more than an hour. Stanley Park, a 400-hectare urban forest, sits at the city's edge. Its seawall path offers views across the harbor to the North Shore Mountains. Totem poles carved by First Nations artists stand in Brockton Point, reminders that this land belonged to the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples for thousands of years. Granville Island buzzes with markets, artisans, and street performers. The Capilano Suspension Bridge sways 70 meters above a canyon surrounded by temperate rainforest. And Grouse Mountain, just 15 minutes from downtown, offers views that stretch from city to sea to sky. Vancouver is one of the world's most multicultural cities. Chinese, Indian, Filipino, and Korean communities layer their languages into the urban fabric. It rains here frequently, but when the sun breaks through, revealing those mountains sharp against blue sky, you understand why people stay. Few cities offer this combination of urban sophistication and wilderness accessibility. It's the most European city in North America, and walking its cobbled streets, you'd swear you were in France. This is Quebec City, the only walled city north of Mexico, where French is the primary language and history lives in every stone. Old Quebec, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, sits on a cliff above the St. Lawrence River. The Chateau Frontenac dominates the skyline, a castle-like hotel built in 1893. Its turrets and copper roofs have become the city's symbol. Rue du Petit Champlain, one of North America's oldest commercial streets, winds below the cliffs. Stone buildings from the 17th century house shops, cafes, and galleries. In winter, the city transforms. Snow blankets everything. The Quebec Winter Carnival fills the streets with ice sculptures and outdoor parties. Montmorency Falls, just outside the city, drops 83 meters, taller than Niagara, freezing partially in winter to create ice formations you can walk behind. Quebec City was founded in 1608 by Samuel de Champlain. It's been the heart of French Canada ever since. The language, culture, and food here resist assimilation. That resistance has created something unique, a piece of France that evolved differently and became distinctly Quebecois. It's larger than Banff, but receives fewer visitors, and that makes it even better. This is Jasper, the largest national park in the Canadian Rockies, where wilderness stretches so far you can hike for days without seeing another person. The Columbia Icefield straddles the park's southern boundary, a massive ice field feeding 8 major glaciers. The Athabasca Glacier flows down from it, accessible by road. You can walk on it, feel the ancient ice beneath your feet, and see meltwater carving new paths daily. Maligne Lake, the park's largest, stretches 22 kilometers into the mountains. Spirit Island, a tiny forested islet, sits at its center, one of the most photographed spots in the Rockies. Athabasca Falls doesn't drop far, only 23 meters, but the volume of water is staggering. The river forces itself through a narrow gorge, carving the rock into smooth, twisted shapes. Jasper is also a dark sky preserve, one of the world's largest. Light pollution is strictly controlled, making the night sky extraordinary. The Milky Way arches overhead, and in winter, if you're lucky, the northern lights dance in green and purple waves across the darkness. Jasper is quieter than Banff, more remote, more wild. It's possibly the most photographed lake in Canada, and standing before it, you understand why. This is Lake Louise, a glacial lake in Banff National Park where the water glows turquoise against a backdrop of snow-capped peaks. The color is so vivid it looks photoshopped, but it's real, created by rock flour suspended in glacial meltwater. The Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise sits at the water's edge, a grand hotel built in 1890 when the railway brought the first tourists west. The reflection of Victoria Glacier shimmers on the lake's surface, perfect and still. In summer, canoes drift across the water, red against turquoise. In winter, the lake freezes solid, and an ice skating rink is carved into its surface. Beyond the lake, the Plain of Six Glaciers Trail climbs into the mountains, passing waterfalls and ending at a tea house built in 1927. The hike is challenging but rewarding. Lake Louise is crowded, extremely crowded in summer. Buses unload tourists by the hundreds, but arrive at sunrise before the crowds, and you'll have it to yourself. The water's still, the mountains silent, and for a moment, you'll understand why people travel across the world for this single view. It's Canada's largest city, and it doesn't apologize for it. This is Toronto, a city of 2.9 million people, over 6 million in the metro area, making it the fourth largest city in North America. The CN Tower, once the world's tallest freestanding structure, dominates the skyline at 553 meters. An elevator takes you to the observation deck in 58 seconds. The glass floor lets you look straight down, 342 meters to the ground below. It's terrifying and addictive. The Distillery District preserves Victorian-era industrial architecture. Its cobblestone streets now filled with galleries, restaurants, and boutiques. Toronto's multiculturalism is its defining feature. Over 50% of residents were born outside Canada. Chinatown, Little Italy, Greektown, and Koreatown blend seamlessly. The Toronto Islands, a short ferry ride from downtown, offer beaches, parks, and views back toward the city skyline. The Royal Ontario Museum, one of North America's largest, holds everything from dinosaur skeletons to ancient Egyptian artifacts. Toronto isn't charming like Quebec City or scenic like Vancouver. It's big, busy, and ambitious. But it's also functional, safe, and surprisingly livable. A city that works even when it probably shouldn't. It's the second largest French-speaking city in the world after Paris, and it has an attitude to match. This is Montreal, where European elegance meets North American energy, creating something uniquely its own. Old Montreal, the historic heart, is all cobblestone streets and 17th century buildings. The Notre Dame Basilica, built in 1829, has an interior so ornate it takes your breath away. Blue vaulted ceilings covered in gold stars, intricate wood carvings, and stained glass depicting Montreal's history fill the space. Mount Royal, the small mountain the city is named after, offers views across the entire metropolis from its summit. In summer, Tam Tams, a weekly drum circle in the park, draws thousands. The Montreal bagel is smaller, denser, and sweeter than its New York cousin, hand-rolled and wood-fired in shops that have operated for decades. Smoked meat, poutine, and tourtière define the cuisine here. Montreal hosts the world's largest jazz festival, the largest comedy festival, and has one of North America's best nightlife scenes. The city parties late, speaks French with pride, and refuses to be just one thing. It's European and North American, historic and modern, sophisticated and gritty, and entirely, unapologetically itself. It's one of North America's premier ski resorts, but calling it just a ski resort undersells it. This is Whistler, where two mountains, Whistler and Blackcomb, offer over 8,000 acres of skiable terrain. The peak-to-peak gondola connects them, holding the world record for the longest free span between towers. Suspended 436 meters above the valley, the ride is spectacular and slightly terrifying. In winter, Whistler transforms into snow heaven. Powdery runs, tree skiing, and backcountry access draw skiers from around the world. The 2010 Winter Olympics were held here, cementing its reputation. But summer reveals a different side. The mountains turn green. Hiking trails replace ski runs. Mountain biking becomes the main attraction, with lift-accessed downhill trails that test skill and courage. Whistler Village, pedestrian-only, feels like a European alpine town. Shops, restaurants, and hotels cluster around cobblestone plazas. The surrounding area offers more: Alta Lake, Lost Lake, and Brandywine Falls. The Sea to Sky Highway connecting Whistler to Vancouver is one of Canada's most scenic drives, winding between ocean and mountains. Whistler is expensive and touristy, but it's also world-class, a place where winter never really ends. It just changes form. Its name means awe and wonder in the Cree language, and standing in it, you'll use both those words. This is Yoho, one of the Canadian Rockies' smaller national parks, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in drama. Takakau Falls drops 373 meters, one of Canada's highest waterfalls. The name means magnificent in Cree. The waterfall is fed by the Daly Glacier, so its flow is strongest in summer afternoons when the glacier melts fastest. Emerald Lake glows green, its color created by light reflecting off limestone on the lake bed. A hiking trail circles it, offering views that change with every step. In winter, the lake freezes, and cross-country skiers glide across its surface. The Burgess Shale, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, contains some of the world's most important fossils, preserving soft-bodied organisms from 508 million years ago. Guided hikes take you to the fossil beds. Natural Bridge, where the Kicking Horse River carved through solid rock, creates a narrow channel where water rushes with tremendous force. Yoho doesn't get the attention Banff and Jasper receive, and that's its strength. It's quieter, more intimate. A park where crowds thin and wilderness deepens with every step you take into its heart. It's Canada's wine country, and standing in a vineyard overlooking the lake, you'll forget you're in Canada at all. This is the Okanagan Valley, a 250-kilometer-long valley in British Columbia, where the climate turns warm enough for grapes, peaches, and cherries to thrive. Over 200 wineries dot the hillsides. Ice wine, made from grapes frozen on the vine, is the region's specialty. The process is painstaking, the yield tiny, but the result is a sweet, concentrated wine unlike anything else. Okanagan Lake stretches 135 kilometers through the valley's center. Beach towns like Penticton and Kelowna line its shores. In summer, the lake becomes a recreation hub for swimming, boating, and paddleboarding. The Ogopogo, a lake monster similar to Loch Ness, is said to live in its depths. First Nations legends speak of a water spirit that demanded respect. Today, it's a tourist mascot. The valley's interior climate creates hot, dry summers and mild winters, unusual for Canada. Desert landscapes appear in the south, complete with cacti and rattlesnakes. The Okanagan is where Canadians go to pretend they live somewhere warmer, to sip wine on patios, and to forget for a moment that winter is always coming back. It's the capital, though you wouldn't always know it. Ottawa isn't flashy like Toronto or cultural like Montreal. It's quiet, organized, and deeply Canadian. This is where Parliament Hill rises above the Ottawa River, its Gothic Revival architecture housing the federal government. The Peace Tower, 92 meters tall, offers views across the city. In summer, the changing of the guard happens daily on the lawn. In winter, the Rideau Canal freezes solid, becoming the world's largest skating rink. People skate to work. Vendors sell beaver tails, fried dough pastries from wooden shacks on the ice. It's a 7-kilometer skate from one end to the other. The National Gallery of Canada, designed by Moshe Safdie, houses the country's most important art collection. The Canadian Museum of History, across the river in Gatineau, Quebec, tells the nation's story through Indigenous artifacts and settler history. By Ward Market, in the downtown core, has operated since 1826. Fresh produce, artisan goods, and restaurants serving everything from poutine to Ethiopian food fills its stalls. Ottawa is bilingual, sitting on the border between English Ontario and French Quebec. It's a city built on compromise, on balance, on the idea that a diverse nation needs a capital representing everyone. It succeeds quietly, without drama. It's where the mountains meet the prairies, and that transition is dramatic. This is Waterton Lakes, the smallest of Canada's Rocky Mountain National Parks, but also one of the most unique. The park borders Montana's Glacier National Park, and together they form the world's first international peace park. The landscape shifts abruptly. Flat prairie grassland suddenly gives way to jagged peaks. No foothills, no gradual rise, just mountains erupting from the plains. Waterton Lake is the deepest in the Canadian Rockies, reaching 150 meters. A historic boat, the MV International, has been cruising the lake since 1927. Crossing into U.S. waters mid-journey without requiring passports. The Prince of Wales Hotel, built in 1927, sits on a bluff overlooking the lake. A Swiss-style chateau that looks like it belongs in the Alps. Wind sweeps constantly through Waterton. Trees lean permanently eastward, shaped by decades of relentless western winds. Red Rock Canyon glows rust-colored, its iron-rich sediment creating walls that look painted. Waterton is small, only 505 square kilometers, but it packs incredible diversity into that space. Prairie, mountain, lake, and forest converge here. It's a park that rewards exploration and reveals itself slowly. It's the largest city in Atlantic Canada, and it carries the weight of maritime history in every harbor view. This is Halifax, where the Atlantic Ocean has shaped everything from economy to culture to identity. The Halifax Citadel, a star-shaped fort built in the 1850s, sits on a hill overlooking the harbor. It's the fourth fort built on this site, each one designed to defend against American or French attacks that never came. Today, reenactors fire the noon gun daily, a tradition since 1857. The waterfront boardwalk stretches along the harbor, lined with shops, restaurants, and museums. The Maritime Museum of the Atlantic tells the story of the Titanic, which sank 700 kilometers southeast of here. Many victims were brought to Halifax and buried in its cemeteries. The museum displays artifacts recovered from the wreck. Peggy's Cove, an hour's drive south, is one of Canada's most photographed lighthouses. The small fishing village clings to granite rocks worn smooth by ocean waves. The 1917 Halifax explosion, caused when a munitions ship collided with another vessel, remains the largest man-made explosion before the atomic bomb. It killed 2,000 people and flattened the city's north end. But Halifax rebuilt and endures, a city shaped by the sea and strengthened by survival. It's Quebec's countryside, and it's where Quebecers go to escape. This is Charlevoix, a region northeast of Quebec City, where the St. Lawrence River widens and mountains rise from its shores. The landscape is dramatic with rolling hills, deep valleys, and rivers carving through ancient rock. A massive meteor struck here 350 million years ago, creating a crater 54 kilometers wide. The impact shaped the region's unique geography, its circular ridges and fertile valleys. The Charlevoix Biosphere Reserve, a UNESCO designation, protects this unusual ecosystem. Baie-Saint-Paul, an artist town, has attracted painters for over a century. Galleries line the main street. Studios hide in converted barns. The light here, reflected off the river, has a quality artists claim is unique. La Malbaie, further northeast, was once a summer retreat for wealthy Americans. Grand hotels from the late 1800s still operate, their verandas overlooking the river. Île aux Coudres, an island in the river, can be reached by free ferry. Time moves slower here. Windmills, stone churches, and farms that have operated for generations dot the landscape. Charlevoix is where Quebec's rural soul lives, where French traditions survived unchanged, where the land is worked, not just viewed. And where visitors come not for attractions, but for the feeling of stepping back in time. From turquoise mountain lakes to thundering waterfalls, from ancient glaciers to forests that stretch beyond the horizon. Canada isn't just big, it's vast. So vast that empty spaces aren't voids, they're the landscape itself. This is a country where wilderness isn't the exception, it's the rule, where grizzly bears and caribou still migrate freely, where you can drive for hours without seeing another car, and where nature operates on a scale that humbles you completely. Canada doesn't demand attention, it offers space. And in that space, you find something rare: silence, perspective, and the understanding that humans are guests here, not rulers. If this journey inspired you, subscribe to Life in Geo for more hidden wonders around the world. Comment below and tell us which Canadian destination calls to you. And remember, the most extraordinary places aren't always the easiest to reach. Sometimes they require cold, effort, and patience, but they reward you with something money can't buy. The feeling of being truly, completely small in the face of nature's magnificence. Discover the world, explore the extraordinary. See you in the next adventure.